pull up. We're going to hit the water though. Those were the final words Gary Hart remembered before everything went black. The small Cessna 182, carrying 4 men who were the heartbeat of professional wrestling's golden era, slammed into the dark waters of Tampa Bay. The plane shattered upon impact, sending debris scattering across the unforgiving waves. In the chaos that followed, 3 of the men managed to claw their way to the surface, disoriented, injured, but alive. The 4th man, however, never emerged from the icy grip of the Gulf of Mexico. That man was Bobby Shane, a wrestler on the brink of superstardom, known to his fans as the King of Wrestling at just 29 years old. His life and career were cut tragically short in a disaster that still reverberates through the annals of professional wrestling. This is the story of how a young boy from St. Louis rose to become one of the most influential figures in wrestling, only to have his legacy cemented by a tragic end that no one saw coming. On August 25, 1945, in the heart of St. Louis, Missouri, a child was born who would one day wear a crown, not of royalty, but of wrestling supremacy. Robert Lee Schoenberger was not born into privilege or fame. His path to greatness would be forged through grit, determination, and an unyielding desire to conquer the squared circle. From a young age, Robert was captivated by the larger-than-life figures that dominated the wrestling rings of the era. As a teenager, Robert sought out gyms where local wrestlers trained, determined to learn the craft. One such gym was frequented by the legendary Wild Bill Longson, a 3-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Longson, known for his brutal style and no-nonsense attitude, initially saw Robert as just another eager kid. But Robert's persistence paid off, and Longson took him under his wing, albeit as a punching bag for the more experienced wrestlers. The young Robert endured countless beatings, but he never wavered. He had a goal, and nothing would deter him from achieving it. Eventually, Longson recognized the fire in Robert's eyes and began to train him in earnest. Robert's transformation into a professional wrestler had begun, and with it, the birth of Bobby Shane, the man who would become the first true king of professional wrestling. Bobby Shane made his professional debut in Portland, Oregon, on May 11, 1964, at the age of 19. His first recorded match was against the formidable Pampero Firpo, a wrestler known for his wild and unpredictable style. Shane, still green and wet behind the ears, was no match for Firpo's experience and intensity. But even in defeat, Shane showed glimpses of the potential that would later define his career. For the next few years, Shane traveled the world, honing his craft in various territories. From Honolulu to Mexico City, from Missouri to the Pacific Northwest, Shane was determined to make a name for himself. By the mid-1960s, he had become a regular in Bob Gagle's Central States promotion, where his natural charisma and in-ring prowess quickly made him a fan favorite. Gagle, recognizing Shane's potential, gave him plenty of opportunities to shine, and it wasn't long before other promoters took notice. In July 1966, Shane debuted in Jim Crockett's Mid-Atlantic promotion, one of the most prestigious wrestling territories in the United States. Though still a relative newcomer, Shane's star was on the rise. He spent the next 6 months establishing himself as a promising young talent, though he was often relegated to the undercard due to his inexperience. But Shane was patient. He knew that his time would come. Shane by 1960 Atlantic and spent the first half of the year working for the AWA, one of the biggest wrestling promotions of the time. He even earned a shot at the AWA World Heavyweight Championship against the legendary Vern Gagne in a 3 falls match in Omaha, Nebraska. Though the match ended in a draw, it was a significant milestone in Shane's career, proving that he could hang with the best in the business. As the 1960s drew to a close, Bobby Shane continued to build his reputation in various territories across the United States. In late 1967, he moved to Detroit to work for Big Time Wrestling, where he spent the next year refining his skills and developing his persona. By December 1968, Shane had returned to championship wrestling from Florida, a territory that would become central to his career. Florida was a hotbed for wrestling in the late 1960s and early 1970s, and Shane quickly became one of its brightest stars. He was charismatic, talented, and had a unique ability to connect with the audience. It was in Florida that Shane began to experiment with a new character, one that would change the course of his career. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, please hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. In May 1968, Shane teamed with Thor Hagen in St. Louis to challenge for the NWA North American Tag Team Championships. Though they were unsuccessful, the match was a pivotal moment in Shane's career. It was clear that he was ready to take the next step, and that meant evolving from the clean-cut babyface he had been into something more complex, more compelling. In 1971, Bobby Shane introduced the world to the King of Wrestling, a cocky, arrogant heel who strutted to the ring in a crown and cape, proclaiming himself as the rightful ruler of the wrestling world. The transformation was nothing short of revolutionary. Fans who had once cheered for Shane now booed him with venomous fervor, and he relished every moment of it. The King was born. Bobby Shane's new persona as the King of Wrestling quickly became one of the hottest acts in the business. His arrogance combined with his in-ring skill made him a must-see attraction in every territory he visited. Shane's promos were legendary. He would come on television and declare that the peasants the fans needed to pay to see him wrestle, further inciting their ire and driving ticket sales through the roof. In the Gulf Coast territory, Shane's heel persona reached new heights. He teamed with Terry Garvin, with a young Jimmy Garvin as their manager, and feuded with some of the top babyfaces in the region. One of the most memorable moments came when Shane put a fellow wrestler, the Blue Yankee, in his Cobra Clutch finisher, which he called the Japanese Sleeper, and refused to release the hold, leaving the Yankee convulsing in the ring until another wrestler intervened. This level of villainy only added to Shane's mystique and drew even larger crowds to the arenas. On May 12, 1971, in Mobile, Alabama, Shane made his first appearance as the King in full regalia. Though he lost the match that night, the image of Bobby Shane wearing a crown and cape would become iconic. He soon added his wife, Miss Sherry, as his valet. The King of Wrestling was now one of the most reviled men in the sport, but also one of the most successful. He won the NWA Florida Southern Heavyweight Championship in 1971, defeating George Geyser in Tampa, and defended the title against some of the biggest names in wrestling. His feud with Eddie Graham, one of the most respected figures in the business, became the stuff of legend. The two men clashed in a series of brutal, hard-hitting matches that left fans on the edge of their seats. Shane's reign as the King of Wrestling was not just about championships, it was about establishing a legacy. His influence extended beyond the ring as he became a mentor to younger wrestlers, helping them develop their own personas and navigate the complex world of professional wrestling. One of those wrestlers was Jerry Lawler, who would go on to become the King. In Memphis, a moniker directly inspired by Bobby Shane's character. Final chapter. By 1974, Bobby Shane had become one of the most respected and influential figures in wrestling. He had traveled the world, from the United States to Australia, where he worked for Jim Barnett's promotion and even served as an assistant booker. His time in Australia was a testament to his growing reputation as not just a wrestler, but a mind for the business. However, despite his success, tragedy was looming on the horizon. In early 1975, Shane returned to Florida, where he was poised to take over as the booker for Championship Wrestling from Florida, one of the most prestigious positions in the wrestling world. It was a role that would have allowed Shane to shape the future of the territory, bringing in new talent and crafting storylines that would captivate audiences for years to come. But Shane's time as a booker would be tragically short-lived. On February 19, 1975, after a match in Miami Beach where Shane and his partner Buddy Colt defeated Dominic DeNucci and Tony Parisi, Shane, Colt, Gary Hart, then known as Iron Mike McCord, and Mike McCord boarded a small Cessna 182 plane for a short flight back to Tampa. The weather was rough, with strong winds and heavy rain, but they were determined to make the trip. Buddy Colt, who was an experienced pilot, was at the controls. As they flew over Tampa Bay, Colt attempted to land the plane at Peter O. Knight Airport. However, the strong winds made the landing extremely difficult. As Colt tried to approach the runway, the plane suddenly lost altitude and crashed into the dark waters of Tampa Bay. The impact was devastating. Colt, Hart, and McCord managed to escape the wreckage and swim to safety, though they were all injured. Bobby Shane, trapped in the back of the plane, was not so fortunate. Despite their best efforts to save him, Shane perished in the crash. The wrestling world was stunned by the news of Bobby Shane's death. He was just 29 years old, with a bright future ahead of him both in the ring and behind the scenes as a booker. His death was a tragic reminder of the dangers that wrestlers often faced, not just in the ring but in their daily lives. Bobby Shane's legacy lives on in the world of professional wrestling. He was a pioneer of the King persona, a character that has since been adopted by other wrestlers like Jerry Lawler, who credited Shane as the inspiration for his own King gimmick. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, please hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts.